Hey everyone, thanks for joining today. Well, I have someone that I don't think has ever been brought onto this channel with me here today, and this is my boy Visuki, who is a rescue boa that I took in almost 2 years ago now. And he's joining me today as we talk a little bit about boa constrictors and whether or not they're a good pet snake. So stick around. I'm Jack, and you're watching Python Addiction. Hey everyone, thanks for joining today. So like I said, I have my boy Visuki with me today as we just do a little video regarding whether or not I think boas are a good pet snake. I say this as I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total in my collection as of right now that I keep. I enjoy them. Their needs are a little bit different than the ball pythons, and the biggest difference is enclosure, as they generally need larger enclosures. You can't keep the boas, at least as adults, for the most part, in racks. And this is going to vary a little bit from particular species or locality to locality, because I know some of the different localities of boas are smaller to where they might be able to be kept in a more traditional like V70 style rack system. But for the most part, as these guys get to be adult size, you're going to need at least like a 4 foot by 2 foot by 18 inch or 2 foot enclosure to really give them some space to move around and to keep that temperature gradient proper and the humidity gradients proper in their enclosure. Speaking of temperature and humidity, temperature-wise, I generally use radiant heat panels for all of my boas, and it just offers much better heating control for the PVC enclosures that I use for them. And you want to keep their hot spot generally almost like a ball python at around 90 degrees, with a cool spot in the low 80s. Like I can keep mine for these ones like 79 to 82, 83 is normally a good low spot side, with having the hot spot at around 90 to 91 degrees for these guys. And that works perfect. So slightly different than a ball python, but if you're already a ball python keeper and you're looking at getting into maybe having a boa, you're very familiar with how to keep certain temperature ranges already, so you shouldn't have much of an issue keeping a boa's enclosure in a very similar temperature range. Humidity wise, actually about the same again. You want to keep ambient humidity at around the 60 to 65% range is what I normally find to be a really good humidity for ambient, with occasional misting, especially when they're getting ready to go into blue, keeping it up into the 75 to 80%. Never have your humidity at like 100% for any of your reptiles, as that's too much. You want to keep it to where it's in like the 85% range when they're going into shed, and then it can drop down for like your ball pythons, and for your boas, it can drop down into the lower 60s and 70% range for that humidity, and it will not hurt them one bit. But keeping it all the way up into the 90, 95, 100% range can cause respiratory issues in the long term for boas as well as ball pythons. So it's something to keep in mind. The other thing that I kind of actually enjoy about boas that's a little bit different to ball pythons, and why I actually think in some respects they are a better pet to keep, is once they get past that juvenile stage, once they become adults, their feeding schedule becomes a little bit more lax. Once you've gotten them past their like first year worth of feeding, and that's normally a weekly feeding for the first year to year and a half. Once you start upping their feeding size, you can actually start adjusting their feeding schedule to 2 week intervals, to once every 2 weeks, and then once every 3 weeks. And then like this boy, he only eats once a month. Yes, once a month. He gets a medium-sized rat every 4 weeks. And that whole feeding schedule, my two largest are now getting fed once every 5 weeks. And they're getting almost jumbo size rats now with how big they are. But once every 5 weeks is what their feeding schedule is like. So when you get into, at least for the general boas, feeding can become a little bit of an easier schedule to maintain. You just write it down on your calendar. Once a month, once they become adults, is nice. Or once every 3 weeks. Again, it's going to depend on the size prey that you're giving them and their weight and everything like that on exactly when you feed. But I'm just giving a generalized concept that for the most part adults are approximately once a month or so when it comes to feeding them. So it's not overly expensive. It's not overly burdensome. It's not like something like a cat that you have to feed every single day, or all of the mice and rodents that I breed, having to make sure that they're fed every day and watered every day. For these guys, you got to make sure that they have a good nice bowl of water always in their enclosure. So if they want to soak, they can soak. It keeps their humidity up and everything like that. But otherwise, feeding them once a month when they're adults makes life a little bit easier. Along with that, gives me a little bit more holding time with them. And that's one of the other things that I actually kind of do enjoy when it comes to these guys versus like my breeding females for my ball pythons. I enjoy handling all of my reptiles, but when it comes to handling them, one of the things that I have to take into consideration is when they last ate. Because I generally like to give 48 to 72 hours worth of no handle time for any of my reptiles after they've eaten, to make sure that they've had time to start digesting their meal, so there's no chance of them regurgitating it. When it comes to these guys, if I feed them in the very beginning of the month, unless they're going into shed or something like that, I can go right into most of their enclosures later on in the month and not have to worry about, when was it when they ate last, because I already have that marked down. They're only eating approximately once a month. It makes life a little bit easier for when I want to pull one of these guys out just to have a little bit of hangout time with one of the babes. And that's a nice factor. And it's not like it's a huge concern when it comes to like my ball pythons and everything like that. but it's something to take into consideration when you're getting a pet, and whether or not you or other members of your family or whatnot are going to want to handle or interact with your pet. Them having eaten is one of those things that you have to take into consideration. So as babies and everything like that for these guys, obviously it's going to be a little bit more of, you got to make sure that you're giving them at least 48 to 72 hours between meals before you really are handling them. But as they age up, you won't have to worry about that as much. And last thing, their temperament, I don't know what it is with my snakes in particular, or if I am somehow a snake whisperer. For most of my animals, they're easygoing. I have one boa, her name is Wednesday, that is a bit on the cantankerous side. And she will bite without provocation, without notice. Because she will crick her neck just ever so right and then just latch on. No idea whatsoever why. It's just part of her quirky nature and something that I've learned to accept. I still handle her, even if I know I'm going to get bitten by her, because I love all of the animals that I have. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you already have a boa, what do you think? Am I right in saying that I do kind of think that boas can make a good pet snake? Or do you think I'm totally off base? Let me know in the comments below. While you're down there, let me know if you do have a boa, what kind of boa you have. Like I said, I have a few different kinds of boas, as you guys have seen a few of them on the channel here over the years, and I'll be showing off one of my other babies that I have that I got last year. I'll show you guys how she's grown over the course of the year, so you can kind of see some of what I'm talking about when it comes to the aspect of slow growth when it comes to boas and just their temperament and everything in general. But if you've liked today's video, as always, hit that like button. That lets me know that you like this type of content. You like seeing some of my other animals that I have in my collection. And if you've made it this far into the video today, and if you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to the channel. And while you're at it, click that notification icon, as that will let you know when I do new videos. I tend to do new videos at least once a week. So until next time, you guys, I love you all. I'm Jack. This is my boy Vizuki, and you've been watching Python Addiction. You've been such a good boy. You can say goodbye. Say goodbye.